Hello, everyone. My name is Corey Walker. I am the Senior Assistant Director of Admission at Sarah Lawrence College. And first off, I just want to thank everyone who is joining us out there in the internets. I have a wonderful panel assembled that's going to talk to you all a little bit about student life here on campus. At this moment, I'll ask them each to introduce themselves. Let us know a little bit about their academic interests and hometown, and then we'll go ahead and get it kicked off. I'll also be monitoring whatever questions come in through Twitter or YouTube. So for all of you out there, feel free to send along whatever questions you may have. And without further ado, we'll give it to the students, whomever would like to start off.
Yep.
Okay. I was trying to fight that. Everyone just turned to look at me. No. Hi, I'm a junior here. I'm from San Francisco, California, and I'm studying mainly political science, history, and film.
My name's Pauline. I'm a senior here, and I'm studying politics, economics, and theater. I'm also in my first year of a graduate program here, so I can add women's history to that list as well.
I'm Danica. I'm a sophomore. I'm from New Delhi, India. I'm studying international relations and women's studies.
Hi, I'm Aishwarya. I'm from Mumbai, India, and I'm doing psychology and a couple of other things too.
Great. Well, thank you all very much for that. One of the things that would be great as well would be to learn what year you are here at the college, and also to let us know a little bit about how you spend your time outside of the classroom, whether that's committee commitments or jobs on campus, which I know some students are less aware of. So if you all could give us some information on that, that would be helpful and wonderful too.
Yeah, sure. Well, in terms of, well, firstly, I'm a junior. I have 2 jobs on campus. So I work with admissions and I work with college events. I'm also involved in 3 different clubs, one of which I'm going to start. One of the clubs is an International Student Union. The other is a peer mentoring advisory board. And then the other one that we're bringing onto Sarah Lawrence is SLC One Love, which kind of relates with relationship violence. So that's me.
I'm a sophomore. I sit on 3 committees, which are namely the Housing Committee, Committee on Student Life, and the Sexual Assault Task Force. And I have 3 jobs. I work with admissions in the Office of Advancement and as RA for Residence Life. So that's me.
I also have 2 jobs on campus. I'm here at admissions, and I'm also an economics research assistant. And then I'm also on the cross-country team.
I have a couple of jobs on campus. I work with the film department in the equipment room there and the editing labs. I also help out the athletics department with some of the sports events. And I've played on the soccer team, the swim team, and I'm also currently on the volleyball team.
Awesome. One of the things that would be really interesting, I would love to learn a little bit more about the athletics that you're involved in, Amit. If you can talk a little bit about how you balance what is likely a considerable workload, not only actual kind of pay for employment work, but your schoolwork and your athletics.
I think it's one of those things that I've been doing for a really long time, since when I was in high school and things like that. I was playing sports and balancing school with that, so it's always been something that was never really felt like an option to not do it. But it's one of those. It's kind of, I spend maybe 2 hours a day in the gym, and it's for me it's a really great way to take a break from the work that I'm doing outside and kind of put everything on pause and go and refresh and reset so you can go back and keep working. And I think that it's just a matter of actually just putting in a little bit of time every week, whenever that is, and everyone's on a different schedule here. So but I find finding the time to do it is pretty easy.
And Vinica, how do you manage the committees? I guess first off, one of the things that might be interesting for prospective students to know is maybe how one joins a committee and then what a committee does, because it may seem somewhat straightforward, but I think that there's a difference between working groups and committees, and then there are committees between faculty members and students and administration. So maybe give us a little picture of how the committees work where you engage.
So the 3 committees all had a different sort of process to me joining them. One of them had an election. The other one, I had to, it was an open committee, and I found out about it, and I decided that that was something important to me, which was the housing committee, because I'm also an RA, and that directly affects my job, so I'm also on that committee. And the sexual assault task force was more of, it's an important issue. These dialogues are happening on campuses all over the country. Laws are changing. This year, the New York State governor passed a new law, which affects every school in New York. So how that law affects the student body and how to best transition from one law to another, and to make sure that students are the first priority for everyone involved, student safety. So that was like, I was sort of vetted for that position as a student representative and invited to the committee. So there are different ways of joining committees, and that's how I got to the places that I did.
Wonderful. Great, thank you. And Ash, I think that some students are probably unaware, prospective students are unaware of how clubs are formed here at Sarah Lawrence. Can you tell us a little about how that works out?
Yeah, sure. Basically, to form or find or go about, organizing a club, it's pretty simple. You just need yourself and another person with a mission statement, and you're good to go. You just go and go into to the student senate, let them know what your mission is about, and just seek approval from them. The reason we do so is because then you can apply for funding for your organizations. And to be very honest, on Sarah Lawrence campus, there are many clubs and organizations that cater to different people's needs and interests. So if you do not want to start a club, you can definitely be part of the already existing ones.
That's great. That's great. And Pauline, you mentioned an economic research job, which is a little different from, I think, what students might expect, being able to work in the admission office or work with the audiovisual department. How is your research? How did that come about, and what are you engaging in?
Well, I think I can't speak for how everybody gets into the research positions, because I think it's kind of different for everyone. But the way that I got to it was I took an econometrics lecture, and then went and took the second level of econometrics as a seminar the next semester. And it was all with the same professor. And at the end of that, he asked me if I would be his research assistant. And so I told him yes. And my job mostly consists of doing a lot of research in the various things that he's interested in. So most recently, I got told to look for as much information as I could find on tax and labor policy in Brazil. And so I looked up a bunch of articles and checked out books for him and made a big bibliography and sent it all off. I'm also going to help him because he puts together a conference every year with one of the other professors here. And so I'm going to be helping him later this week, stuff envelopes for invitations, and kind of figure out some of the event planning involved in that as well.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, we are getting some questions in from prospective students via Twitter. So I wondered if one of our prospective students is asking if any of you might describe a first-year schedule. Who's closer to the first year there?
We were
first years. So
Trying to remember.
a first year schedule is.
I think
Yeah.
just because we have 3 classes, and the 3 classes that we take are completely dependent on us because we interview for those classes.
Right.
Everyone's schedule kind of differs. So I like studying in the morning and the afternoon, so I had no evening classes. But I had a friend who used to take a film class last year whose class would begin from, I think, 8 to 10 so at night. So it just really does depend. The other time students I spent in the library a lot of it because I was very nervous about getting everything done my first year because I was very scared. But also open mic on Thursdays was very fun. I had friends who were in the Rocky Horror production last year, which was very fun. There's, I believe, 75% or more students live on campus. So there's always something happening. And I did spend a lot of my time on campus attending those events, even if I wasn't a part of them.
Yeah. Also, like in terms of my schedule, it was a bit pretty different from hers because my classes were all shifted after 1. And I kind of wanted it that way. I went into interviews kind of looking for those classes just because I didn't like getting up early in the morning. So if you're that kind of a person, you can do that. And, you know, classes would end about 5:30. So after that, there might be a guest speaker lecture happening on campus. There might be, as she said, on Thursday, open mics happening or club meetings that are happening. So generally that would, you know, you go into that. Or if it's like a Friday night or the weekend, we have the Sarah Lawrence Activities Club, which kind of hosts a lot of dance parties on campus, which are structured around a theme. So those are a couple of the things that you could do as a first year or even as a general student on campus.
I think one of the big things is that there aren't a whole lot of things that happen on campus that are just first years or just sophomores. Your schedule from the get-go is going to be pretty similar to how it will be for your 4 years here, depending on how actively you engage from the time you start. I know a lot of people kind of warm up and start getting more and more involved in things. I kind of started by just saying yes to everything and wondering 6 weeks in where my time had gone. And I kind of haven't really slowed down since then. But so my schedule looks pretty much exactly the same as it did 2 years ago.
Also, you take classes with, you do take classes with upperclassmen. So as Amit was saying, your schedule doesn't really change from year to year. If you're involved in XYZ things, you might take some time getting involved in those things, but after you are, it's basically doing the things that you're involved in and classes and
Great. There are 2 things that I want to pick up on from what you all just said, and then I want to get to a question. Pauline, I know that you have some experience with Rocky Horror, and I understand that that is a huge draw for a lot of students. So I want you to be able to talk about that, but something maybe a bit more serious first. Earlier today, we were able to share that the Huffington Post put an article out naming the top 10 LGBTQ friendly campuses. To our great pride, Sarah Lawrence is included in that top 10. One of our prospective students has asked simply to what degree you all can comment about LGBTQ community here on campus.
Super vocal and involved in shaping a lot of what happens on the campus. I think it's impossible to be a student without at least becoming significantly more aware of the politics of what's going on in the LGBTQ community, just because so many of your friends and coworkers are going to be heavily involved.
On top of that, we also, I think it's new this year, but it's older than that, a new LGBTQ safe space.
We have a LGBTQI space on campus as of now. So they really host a lot of events. They also have National Coming Out Day, which, you know, we as students partake in that. And it's also a safe space for you if you want to come in and you want to talk about certain things that you're, you know, going through. It's a really open campus. And I think, as Amit said, you will definitely be largely involved in whatever is going on with the community.
Thank you. And now, Rocky Horror. Pauline, can you give us a little bit of insight into the institution that is the Rocky Horror Picture Show here on campus?
Sure. So I've done it 3 times now because I just really like it. The first time I was Columbia, second time Jenna, and last Friday we just finished up the one for this fall work, which was so much. I really loved it. But it's really easy to get involved. Essentially, they have auditions very early on in the year. And it's a shadow cast, not like a musical production. So you have practices usually from about 10 at night to midnight, because that's just a more appropriate time for Rocky. Rocky's not really a noon sort of activity. But and they teach you, all of the like movements and the blocking and everything, and eventually you perform in Risinger, which is our biggest auditorium on campus. And it's a lot of fun. Everyone knows all the callbacks, and so like it is just like pandemonium because everyone's screaming the entire time. And it's a lot of fun, and the community is really great. It's always a really, really good group of kids, and I mean, even as a senior, and as many times as I have done it, I'm continuously meeting new people, which really kind of goes for any club or activity on campus, and have made new friends even in just the last couple of months that I didn't know before.
Wonderful. I'm going to resort to a couple more student questions, but one of the things I'd love for you all to share with those who are viewing are maybe some of your favorite activities on campus that are more or less traditional. So Rocky Horror probably fits that category, but we also have more formal buttoned up things, and I wondered if you all might address those.
Well, I do participate in a lot of the open mics, which is, I suppose, a tradition of sorts on campus. Like, as we've mentioned already, it's every other Thursday, and people come with poetry or with songs, and it's really great. It's good to be able to see the kind of like musical community and the poetry community on campus there.
Great.
I mean, a couple of the other traditions that we have one of the biggest ones, which is like fall formal, spring formal that we have, midnight breakfast, which is amazing. I've been to one midnight breakfast, looking forward to the next one. But in terms of fall formal, it's we have two of them. It's a great event where all students come out, and we have great music, great food. It's centered sometimes around a theme, sometimes it's not.
The president also invites all freshmen into her house. She lives on campus, and we have dinner with her. So last year that was something that I really enjoyed. That's also
wonderful. That's super helpful. No, thank you. There are a couple more questions I wanted to get in from the internet audience. I'll lay them out, and then you all can answer them according to whatever you like. One question is, what is an average class like at SLC? So one might think about the structure of our classes. And then the other question was about pairing roommates, and if you all might talk about what that process was like, and how roommates work here at Sarah Lawrence.
I can take the class one.
I can take the roommate one. I think we can all
Pitch in.
So the big thing is that your classes are going to generally be conversations, and very rarely are you going to have a professor in front of the class, even in a lecture, where they spend the majority of your 90 minutes talking at you. Most frequently, you'll have done a certain amount of reading or preparation, however the professor wanted you to do it for the class. And you'll come in, the professor will ask one or two questions, and the dialogue and the conversation will kind of just take off. You usually end up shouting at each other.
In a good academic sort.
Yeah. In a good academic shouting. And through the discussion, things, and the best professors are the ones that are good at shaping those dialogues.
Yeah.
Most classes are small. The classes are all 15 or below. I think the average class size is 12 or 13. The lectures are capped at 45. If it's a super popular lecture, sometimes it'll go up to 50. But all small classes, so you actually can't fall asleep. You're very visible around a round table.
I think just to add on to lectures, there are very different types of lectures that I've personally taken at Sarah Lawrence. Some of them are more academic and more constructed around a syllabus, and some of them are just like watching a documentary and then having 45 people in a room trying to get their point across, and it's completely different from the other lectures that I've seen in other schools. It's more intimate. 45 students, sometimes 30 students.
Yeah, just to add to lecture,
Sure.
the structure really is like, I know that generally one does not think of lectures as a particularly participatory experience, but it absolutely is. Like, last semester I took the political economy of women, which if you guys come and you want to take that class, absolutely do, because it was like life-changing. It was great. But even in that, where like the structure was more, the professor is speaking to us and we are taking notes on what she's saying, there was no point at which we couldn't like stick our hands up in the air and go, hey, wait, I have a question, or like, what about this? This doesn't make sense. And sometimes we take really significant detours on the topic, like, but within the realm of what we were talking about, and it really like allowed us to like expand on what we were talking about and really enrich the conversation.
Wonderful.
And as for housing, I guess, you have roommate selection. So for freshmen, you have to fill out a questionnaire, and the questionnaire is pretty detailed. Are you a morning person, night person? How clean are you? What's your favorite, what's your music that you listen to? It has a lot of, I think it has interest, and like I put down all the bands I listen to because like that's important to me. And then the housing department, which is the Office of Residence Life, will actually sit down at like people will sit down, open each application and match you to the best possible compatible roommate. And they do a really good job of it. I loved both my roommates last year. We didn't have any problems. It really does help that a person puts you with a person, because then if you do have problems, again, the very person who is responsible for putting you with that roommate, you have to go and talk to this person and get a housing change. So it's a very personal experience to get put with a roommate. And after that, you have the housing lottery and you can choose who you live with beyond the first year. But for most people, I will say that it's a pretty decent, like,
not knowing 4 other individuals in the apartment, and I think we just clicked so well. So I obviously think that the housing department does a really good job of that.
My first year roommate and I got on really wonderfully, and that is one of the perks of being at such a small school. Like, the individual attention that you get isn't just in the classroom, it's everywhere.
Wonderful, wonderful, appreciate it. I have a couple, 2 more questions before we fade out at the top of the hour. One of the questions that I'd like for you guys to tackle first is, the prospective students are aware that we have a great location. We're in Bronxville, we're right next door to Yonkers, but we also happen to be a 35-minute train ride from a small town called New York City. And the question is, to what degree students use New York City as a resource, and how that impacts and interrelates with student life here on campus.
It's a huge part of the campus culture, I think. Being a small school, you definitely still feel very cosmopolitan. You have friends. I think everyone has friends who have done internships in the city. One of the cool things you can do is, after your first year, do internships for course credit, so you don't have to balance a full workload and traveling to the city twice a week to work part-time. So for students that are interested in politics, for instance, I have a friend who's working with the Senator Joe Brand's office in New York City 2 days a week, and comes back and does 2 politics classes on campus. So students do that a lot. Everyone who's ever toured done a concert tour has stopped in New York City, where we have Broadway, New York Film Festival, Lincoln Center. People are going in and out of the city all the time for various things.
Great. And I think the appropriate to on. One of the questioners asked, how did each of you know that Sarah Lawrence was definitely the place for you? I think that often students do a lot of research, a lot of due diligence to learn that the education here is top rate and one that can be individually molded. But I can certainly speak for myself. When I was a student here and a prospective student, when the dinosaurs roamed the earth, I knew that I wanted to be here because of something I saw on campus that was not in the classroom. What about for you all?
I can answer that question. I'm an international student, and it was very important for me that I go to a place where I'd be comfortable from the get-go. And this was one of the few schools where, when I reached out to the Office of International, the office which deals with international students, they put me in touch with students who seemed genuinely excited about being here, and that were very welcoming. And even if I had like silly questions about how the transition was for them and so on, whether they were moving from Long Island to Sarah Lawrence or whether they were moving from Malaysia to Sarah Lawrence, they all seemed to be very excited to be a part of this experience. It's a small school, so the community really does matter. And I have found great people here, and they seemed, when I spoke to them, they seemed like they were really enjoying each day and felt like they belonged here. Administration seemed like even they were excited to work here. So yeah, that was a big thing for me.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm also an international student. Once again, I come from Mumbai, India. So unlike other students, I didn't have an opportunity to come down here and take a tour or sit in classes. A lot of it was pretty much just based on the website and speaking to Shirley B, who's our international student coordinator. And really for me, what stood out in terms of coming to Sarah Lawrence, and even for that matter, eating over here, was one, I was interested in keeping my passion for dance, but at the same time didn't want to lose out on the other interest that I had was psychology. So I wanted an institution which could cater to both of it and not ask me to put one thing, give priority to one thing over the other. Two, I would say the student to faculty ratio, I think that you don't really understand how much you can gain from it until like you actually come into a class. It's wonderful what you have. It's wonderful what you have with the faculty members. You can name the faculty in your college, and the faculty for what they teach. Another thing I would say is the close-knit community over here, because as an international student, you're away from home. There's so many changes that are happening. You really need a support system. And just being here, working in admissions, being part of communities and organizations, you really see so much. So I think that's what made me excited.
I think I had a very similar experience. I was excited to come here, but like didn't know like more intimately about the school until I came for Accepted Students Day in my senior year of high school, and just something really clicked there. Where like I mean I had a similar experience where like I got to talk to students and the faculty, and everyone seemed so excited to be here and so happy to be doing what they were doing and so happy to talk to me and make sure that I felt comfortable. And I got to sit in on a class, and I got to see how this all works in action, and it was really incredible to me because everyone just seemed, they were participating so fully and getting so much out of it. And that was, yeah, I agree. Like I tell that to students a lot, where like all of these things seem really great on paper, but like you don't understand how wonderful it is until you're in it, and it is truly like better than you can explain.
I think for me it was interesting. I had visited a lot of small liberal arts schools. Sarah Lawrence wasn't one of the ones that I had visited, and it wasn't. It had kind of gotten lost in a very long list of schools that I was applying to. But when I did get in, and I actually only really started looking at the materials and the websites and things like that after I got my acceptance letter. When it came down to choosing a school to go to, and the more time I spent on the website, and the more people I talked to that had gone here, the more I saw that I would be able to do all the things I was interested in without sacrificing time or rigor on any of them. One of the things that I've really come to enjoy about being here is just the one-on-one time you have with the faculty. I mean, consistently ranked in the top 5 of the Princeton Review's best faculty for teaching in the U.S. And you really do feel that these are some of the smartest people I know I'm ever going to meet, and that I know all of them by name and can have hour-long conversations with them in the gym locker room about espionage in Western Europe with someone who worked on the railroads in Berlin before the wall came down. You can't replicate those experiences anywhere. And it's moments like that that kind of make me happy about the decision.
I also have a faculty anecdote sort of related to that. Like my first year, I usually tell this one just because it happened in my first year. So like these people are paying attention to you like right off. But I also really appreciated the opportunity to be able to explore lots of different interests, as you might have been able to tell from my 4 concentrations. So I actually started out in physics and computer science. And those 2 professors ran into each other on a train once in my first semester. And they started talking about me. And by the end of their conversation, they had cooked up another bit that I could add to my conference project for computer science. They would incorporate some of the physics that we'd been learning. And like, that was, I think, a real moment for me, just because like, I go to a school where my professors know enough about me that they're able to just kind of talk about me like off the cuff on a train, that they want to, because they don't have to talk about me in their free time, but they do. And then also that they're dedicated enough to making my learning experience the best that it can be, and like helping me see the connections between all the things that I'm doing. And I just really appreciated that. And I think that's really emblematic of a lot of the ways that you interact with faculty.
Absolutely wonderful. Thank you all so much. I'm really glad that I deferred to your answers, because I was really persuaded by the giant swing set outside. What really made me sign my name on the document. But I want to really, really, really thank you all for participating. I know that we got a number of questions in, and students were extremely interested in the subject. I want to let everyone out there know that if you have more questions for our distinguished panel, you can certainly send them to slcadmit@saralawrence.edu, and we will fuse those as necessary and get you back answers as quickly as possible. Thank you, thank you, thank you for joining our live chat. And as an admission counselor, I certainly look forward to reviewing all of your applications. We have a bit of time left. To my panel, thanks a lot. I will see you all later.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, I will.
Yeah.
Okay.